everybody. I'm Melissa from Meditative Astrology, and I'm here to talk with you today about the astrology of July 6th through July 12th. We have a few things going on to talk about this week. Before we get into all of that, reminder to like, follow, subscribe, YouTube, social media platforms, so that way you don't miss anything we have going on here. We have these weekly videos that come out every Saturday, as well as a live astrological meditation, 8:30 p.m. Eastern times, that is streamed live to YouTube and Facebook, both on Sundays. So subscribe so that way you don't miss anything, and if you have any friends that you think would enjoy what we have going on here, then I encourage you to go ahead and share it with them too. So if we start out this week on Sunday, July 6th, we start out with the moon in the sign of Scorpio before it moves into Sagittarius around 6 p.m. Eastern time. We also have Venus making a sextile to Neptune. So on last week's video, we talked about Venus moving into the sign of Gemini, making a sextile to Saturn right away, bringing in a little bit of structure, a little stability to Venus in the sign of Gemini. Now we have the sextile coming directly through to Neptune almost instantaneously as Venus has moved into the sign of Gemini. It started applying. So, you know, we can import the Neptune retrograde significations into this transit because Neptune is still so newly retrograde. It just kind of went retrograde over the weekend here. So those significations of reimagining, re-inspiring, and removing any rose-colored glasses like we talked about last week, and then adapting to all of that. You know, maybe new ideas have been coming into mind that inspire or bring a sense of purpose here and has us re-looking at things and reimagining and recreating things. Maybe we're creating some sort of vision here with Venus and Neptune. Venus-Neptune is very dreamy, very romantic, very inspiring, very much allowing us to think and dream and reach for those dreams, right? Like reaching for the stars type energy. That's Venus and Neptune for sure. So this creative vision, Aries, where Neptune is definitely a visionary. It is a cardinal sign, so we initiate. Gemini likes creativity. It likes shifting. It likes morphing. It's a mutable sign. Mercury is a shapeshifter, right? So there could be this subtle but intuitive energy that kind of just flows and things are created. Mental balancing, delusion, and grandeur. When I think about this coming through here, I think about how sometimes, so like Saturn and Venus could be a little bit of bringing a little bit of a container, right? Like it could bring the ideas that Venus and Gemini are bringing up, and it could bring a little bit of form to that in some sort of way. Now Venus and Neptune coming through together can expand us a little bit here. So sometimes, in order to bring a little bit of balance, we need to be able to dream big a little bit. We need to have a little bit of a grandiose idea without going too far. This is one of those things where like a little bit is good, but too much is too much, right? But a little courage could be a good thing, and a little bit of inspiration to step outside of maybe the usual. You know, Venus and Uranus came into contact just before Venus moved into the sign of Gemini, right? We talked about that last week here. So the courage to step into what we really feel, step into what inspires us, and really just connect to that energy that fills us up, whatever that may be for you. I think about being empowered to speak with Venus and Neptune, especially because Venus is in the sign of Gemini, the place of Mercury. So Venus in Gemini brings an ease to communication, while Neptune in Aries allows us to act on our beliefs. And again, these sextiles can be quick and subtle, but they can be quick to initiate and to shift with the signs that they are in. Aries initiates, it's cardinal sign. Gemini shifts, it's a mutable sign. So I could see where this allows us to kind of shift a mindset in a way, and then we realize it afterwards, like, oh yeah, I can do that, or I can think a little bit differently, or I can feel inspired, I can feel creative, and kind of bringing that in. I like that just as Neptune turns retrograde, that it has this contact with Venus that's going to just kind of soften or bring a little bit of a romantic energy to that here. So that's how we start out the week on Sunday here. If we then roll forward into Monday, this is July 7th, we have the moon in the sign of Sagittarius, and we have Venus moving from that sextile to from Neptune into a trine with Pluto here. So if Venus and Neptune could loosen a grip of sorts, you know, like maybe Saturn gave us the container, and then the Neptune aspect allows us to kind of dream big and, you know, be inspired and have these ideals that we are reaching for, then it may be making space for Pluto and Venus to dig deep in a way. Venus-Pluto can be very deep, very intense, very cathartic. It can be, which those experiences are often very difficult, but then can be beneficial in the end, right? Relationships, emotions, the way we desire to communicate, transformation, but transformation in a way that's cathartic, that brings up the yuck for us to process. There could be a large release here, especially as Venus has just went through these aspects with Saturn and Neptune, and we might be looking at different systems, different paradigms, and different things related to overarching themes within our life here. It can be there could be outbursts. It could be very vocal in the sign of Gemini, right? Gemini is communicative. It's loud. It has something to say when we're in the sign of Gemini. It can be very empowering. Plutonian strength mixed with the Gemini versatility that we have here. Typically, these aspects within the trine are positive, but there is a possibility of, maybe on a little less ideal side, a little bit of obsessiveness being possible when things expand too far. So remember that the trine's of the nature of Jupiter, so it expands things, right? It's these two planets coming together and then bringing what they both can bring to the table, and then seeing how they can expand together from that. So if we expand a little bit too far and we go a little bit too deep, we could be a little obsessive about something we're working on, or, you know, in relationships or within communications, something like that. So this could be a real positive breakthrough for the Gemini house, especially with the next aspect that we have going on here this day, which is Uranus entering the sign of Gemini. So Uranus has been in Taurus for the better half of 7 years, and now we're gonna get Uranus entering the sign of Gemini. Uranus is going to enter Gemini, but it's only going to make it about 1.5 degrees into Gemini before it retrogrades. So really, this is just a taste, and then next year we'll get the full scope of Uranus staying in the sign of Gemini. But our ideas, our thoughts, our communications, the tools, and the resources, those are things that are going to be a focus as Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. Technology, for sure. Technology is going to explode very rapidly, more than it already has. That is something that lots and lots of people are talking about Uranus in the sign of Gemini. You know, speech and communication, people may start to speak differently. I was wondering about like old languages or old translations or something possibly coming through. Things that, old things coming up that we discover that could be revolutionary, that can show us different ways of, give us different insights of the ways that maybe people were doing things and communicating before. I'm thinking about mental health with Uranus in the sign of Gemini. Not only to care for our own mental health, but, you know, what if we could have some breakthroughs here in the way that we care for our brains and the ways that we see the mind-body connection coming through here. You know, maybe we start to notice the way that our mental health and the processes within our minds and our mindset affects different things within our body, or, you know, within different actions and reactions based on our mindsets, or things like that. Being flexible with Uranus in the sign of Gemini is going to be very, very important. You know, Gemini is a mutable sign, and Uranus brings change. So things are bound to shift, things are bound to change. Uranus in the sign of Taurus was much more stable. It's kind of like, no, this is the revolutionary action that I'm going to take. Uranus in the sign of Gemini can be a little bit more like, oh, well, I'm going to reach into this, I'm going to reach into that, I'm going to reach into this, I'm going to reach into that at the same time. So be flexible and be prepared for different things, probably different things coming in that, you know, maybe can be overwhelming at some point too, but different facets. I was thinking about breakthroughs in regards to like parts of a whole. So Gemini, being a Mercury ruled sign, is a sign that brings in lots of little different parts, lots of different pieces and information. It just wants to understand lots of different things, right? So we could have ways to understand small parts of a whole. That's kind of back to what I was talking about as far as like understanding the mind-body connection here. And like, you know, if we think about Gemini has a lot to do with the brain, right? A lot to do with the mind, the thoughts, communications, perception. So these information processing type things. So we could see maybe like different ways that we start to understand the way our mind affects our whole body, or the way that our mindset affects the environment around us here. Or, you know, maybe as far as like information processing, maybe we start to have little pieces of different ways that we start to process information, and this could be technological advances too that help us with a greater whole somehow. So like, I don't know, maybe we start to get some really neat like medical advancements that will make the whole being function maybe a little bit more ideal in some sort of manner, some sort of way. So just that flexibility, I feel like we cannot emphasize that flexibility enough here with Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So that's what we have going through here on Monday. If we move forward into Tuesday here, the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius all day with no major aspects. A little bit of a lull here in the middle of the week. And then if we move forward into Wednesday, same thing, just following the moon around. Starts out in the sign of Sagittarius, moves into the sign of Capricorn, just before 5 a.m. Eastern time, so spending most of the day with the Capricorn moon here. And that's going to start setting us up for the full moon that we have coming through on Thursday. Thursday, the only aspect that we have is the full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 18 degrees Capricorn. I'm going to go ahead and put the chart up here so that way you can see that here as we talk about the full moon here. What I think is interesting here is that there's no exact aspects that are going on here during the full moon. So thinking about Capricorn is kind of a solo mission sign anyways, but I think about climbing the mountain solo, going off alone to complete whatever we are completing. So I'm thinking about working hard at completing or moving on this solo mission in regards to new things. Maybe creating something new, or starting or initiating something. Both Capricorn and Cancer, where the sun is, they're both cardinal signs, so they both start and initiate things. They just initiate things in different ways. So things that we are starting or initiating, as well as just kind of the fact that we have multiple sign changes. We have multiple planets that are at early degrees here within the full moon, right? So I'm gonna move that chart forward here actually, so that way you can see the full moon here coming through 18 and 16. All right, we're gonna just go forward just a couple hours here so that way we can get it at 18 degrees and you can see the full moon. All right, there we go. So sun at 18 Cancer and moon at 18 Capricorn here. So we have Venus, which has recently entered the sign of Gemini. We have Uranus just recently entering Gemini here, right? We have Saturn and Neptune still at early degrees of of Aries. So they've just really recently entered, like all of the outer signs have changed, all the outer planets have changed signs and are still in the early degrees, right? So these new things that have been popping up here, working hard at those new things that have been going on, as well as being in a cardinal axis here for the full moon. New moons are new starts, and full moons are culminations, right? Our new moon that we had in the sign of Cancer had some pretty stark new starts. We had the Jupiter Cazimi that came through just after Jupiter moved into the sign of Cancer. That was all built right into the new moon. There was a little action from Mars going on at the new moon, so there was some stark new beginnings here at the new moon here. The Capricorn full moon carries out the duties that were started. That's a Capricornian aspect and trait anyways, like carrying out the duty and the calling and moving forward no matter what the price is, and carrying out the processes, sticking with the process even once the magic starts to kind of disappear and starts to dwindle a little bit here. Once the magic and the sparkle, I'm thinking about the Jupiter Cazimi that we had at the new moon, wanes some, that's the magic, that's the sparkle of it maybe kind of drifting a little bit. Now we need dedication, we need commitment, we need loyalty to keep moving what was birthed in with the Cancer new moon. So the Cancer new moons, in the sign of Cancer, it's a new place in the place of birth. It's a very prolific and a very fertile place for things to be started and to be initiated, right? So there can be a lot of excitement around that, and a lot of ability that it feels like we have here. But we need a process to keep those things growing, right? To keep things moving. So that's where we get the full moon in the sign of Capricorn in the opposite sign that is diligent, that will keep things moving. It will keep carrying out what was initiated within the new moon here. So I like the dedication, but I also like the symbolic story of the solo adventure here without having any aspects and starting down a new path here. It's just it seems like there's a picture painted of a little bit of the Capricorn archetype here within the full moon. So I like that. It makes me excited for, just as excited as I was for, almost as excited as I was for the new moon that we had coming through here. So that's the full moon coming through Thursday, July 10th here. And then if we move forward to Friday, July 11th, no exact aspects here, following the moon through Capricorn right into the sign of Aquarius just before 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And that Aquarius moon is going to take us right into Saturday, July 12th. Aquarius moon all day makes an opposition to Mercury, and here we have Saturn stationing to go retrograde. So it was Neptune's turn, now it's Saturn's turn. They're both going to retrograde back into the sign of Pisces. So Saturn will be fully retrograde by the end of the weekend. We're going to be revisiting structures and frameworks and possibly things that have been initiated as Saturn has entered Aries. So just like talking about Neptune, just quick start lighting that fire. We talked about that in last week's video with moving into the sign of Aries and maybe just moving a little bit too quickly. Same thing could have happened with Saturn moving into the sign of Aries. Maybe we were real quick to lay down new frameworks, new structures, new things that we were trying to explore. Maybe we jumped the gun a little bit here. So did we move too quickly with anything? Is there something that maybe we haven't acted enough on and we need to go back and take a look at that in some way? Things for us to consider here. What about needing to reimagine and redesign, reconfigure? We're going to go back into the sign of Pisces here. So I'm just thinking about everything that has initiated in the sign of Aries since both Saturn and Neptune have moved into the sign of Aries, and now just kind of pulling back, reassessing. Maybe it's not that we need to necessarily change things. Maybe it is. But maybe we just need to step back and take a breather before we step forward. And we just need to reflect on the steps that we have taken and see what we can bring in. Saturn is the planet of revision and double checking, and that's what retrogrades do. So I feel like we're kind of doubling up on that reality check energy here with the Saturn retrograde that we have. You know, Saturn wants it done right, and it wants it done right the first time. Aries is a little bit more like, I'm just going to start the thing, I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to think after I've done the thing. So it could be like the reality checker is checking reality, like kind of checking itself type of thing. So it could be quite the reality check for some people here. It's a long retrograde, so it's not an overnight thing. It's a little bit of a process here. But it's really going to have us revisiting those structures and those frameworks that have been laid down in the sign of Aries. And Saturn and Neptune are going to take this retrograde journey together here at the beginning. So that's the energy that we have coming through here for this week. A few different things. I like the full moon in the sign of Capricorn. I like the other little aspects that we have here. Yeah, so thank you for watching this video with me. Thank you for walking through the week day by day with me. I find that when we look at the astrology and we look at it ahead of time, it just kind of sets us up to not only just be consciously aware of these energies as they are around us and as things are kind of playing out, can be like, oh yeah, there's that Saturn energy playing out, or there's that Neptune energy playing out. But we can also just consciously lean into that energy, and we can maybe work with it a little bit more and create a relationship with it. And that really is what the basis of our Sunday night meditations are. It's finding a way to lean into the energies, work with those energies, and create a relationship with the energies. We come back every single week on Sundays and we create a relationship. We create a practice of meditation, a space of finding our breath, and really just connecting with the energies of the upcoming week here. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video enough to join us on our Sunday night meditations, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I will see you there, as well as I will see you back here next week to look at next week's astrology. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I hope everybody enjoys this wonderful full moon energy that we have, and it's a productive yet enjoyable week for everybody. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thank you.